Imagine this. The lights dim, the crowd roars, and two giants of hip-hop, once brothers in arms, now sworn enemies, explode into a brutal, no-holds-barred brawl that has the entire internet on fire. You're scrolling late at night, heart-pounding, when suddenly it hits your feed. Raw, unfiltered fight footage between 50 Cent and Young Buck, captured in shocking 4K clarity, going mega viral with over 50 million views in under 6 hours. Fists flying, chairs smashing, voices screaming betrayal that cuts deeper than any diss track ever could. Is this the final nail in G-Unit's coffin? Did the man who once called Young Buck his little brother just turn on him in the most savage way possible? Or is Young Buck finally exposing the dark secrets 50 Cent has buried for years? Fans are losing their minds right now. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, every corner of social media is exploding with reactions. Some are screaming, "This is the realest beef we've seen since Tupac and Biggie." Others are crying, "G-Unit is dead, and this footage just killed it." Picture it, 50 Cent, the king of hustle, towering over a bloodied Young Buck, yelling, "You think you can bite the hand that fed you? After everything I did for you?" While Buck spits back, "You ain't my father, you ain't my boss no more, stay out my life." The punches land so hard the camera shakes, and in the background you can hear screams from shocked onlookers, phones flashing, someone yelling, "World Star! World Star!" But wait, this isn't just a fight. Sources close to both camps are whispering that this blowup stems from a decade-old betrayal involving millions in missing royalties, a secret affair that tore families apart, and a deathbed promise from a fallen G-Unit soldier that 50 Cent allegedly broke. Emotions ran so high that even their kids are now dragged into the chaos, with Instagram stories showing tear-streaked faces and cryptic captions that read, "Daddy, why?" The family was left divided, friends picking sides in the comments, and the hip-hop world holding its breath because if this footage is real, and right now every expert says it is, then the streets of hip-hop are about to burn hotter than ever. Is reconciliation even possible? Or are we watching the final chapter of one of the most legendary crews in rap history implode live on camera? Stick around because what happens next in this story is so twisted, so heartbreaking, and so explosive that you're not going to believe it until you hear every single detail. This is the drama you didn't know you needed, but now you can't look away. It all started back in the gritty streets of Queens, New York, when 50 Cent rose from the ashes of a near-fatal shooting and decided to build an empire that would shake the entire rap game to its core. He handpicked a crew of hungry young lions, and at the center of it all stood Young Buck, the Tennessee-bred fighter with a voice like gravel and a loyalty that seemed unbreakable. Together they formed G-Unit, and the world had never seen anything like it. From the very first mixtape to the multi-platinum albums, the crew was unstoppable, dropping hits like In Da Club and Pimp a Butterfly. No wait, PIMP, and the whole industry bowed down, but behind the flashing cameras and sold-out tours, dark cracks were already forming. 50 Cent treated them like family, yet demanded absolute obedience, and Young Buck, who came from nothing, saw 50 Cent as the big brother who pulled him out of poverty. Little did anyone know that money, jealousy, and hidden grudges were already poisoning the bond. Fast forward to 2005, when G-Unit was at its peak, riding high on the success of the Massacre album, and suddenly whispers started circulating that Young Buck was not getting his fair share of royalties. Fans were shocked when leaks showed heated phone calls where Young Buck screamed, "You promised me the world, 50, but all I see is your name on every check." Emotions ran high as Young Buck poured his heart out on tracks like I Ain't F with Them No More, hinting at betrayal, yet 50 Cent laughed it off in interviews, saying, "Buck is my brother, we good," but behind closed doors the arguments grew uglier. Picture this: a smoky back room in Atlanta where 50 Cent slammed his fist on the table, yelling, "You owe me your whole career, Buck, don't forget who put you on," and Young Buck firing back with tears in his eyes, "I gave you my blood, 50, I lost friends, I lost time, and now you treating me like some sidekick." The family was left divided because Young Buck's wife at the time was begging him to walk away, while 50 Cent's inner circle whispered that Buck was disloyal and plotting to steal the G-Unit name. Fans flooded the internet with theories, some defending 50 Cent as the genius hustler, others calling him a control freak who crushed dreams. Then came the first major twist in 2008 when Young Buck officially left the group, citing financial disputes and personal differences. The hip-hop world exploded with reactions. Lloyd Banks dropped cryptic disses, Tony Yayo stayed silent, but the streets knew something deeper was brewing. Sources close to the camp revealed that Young Buck had discovered missing royalty checks worth millions and a secret loan from 50 Cent that turned into a lifetime of control. The betrayal cut so deep that Young Buck vanished for months, only to resurface with solo records screaming his truth. Yet somehow in 2011 they tried to reunite at a benefit show, hugging in front of cameras, but the embrace looked forced and fans could see the tension in their eyes. Fast forward again to recent years when 50 Cent built his billion-dollar empire with vitamin water and power while young Buck struggled with legal troubles and addiction battles. The public saw a man fighting demons, but behind it all he harbored resentment, blaming 50 Cent for abandoning him during his darkest hours. And now this new fight footage changes everything. It shows the moment the old wounds ripped wide open in a private Los Angeles studio session where they were supposedly burying the hatchet. Instead, fists flew after young Buck accused 50 Cent of sleeping with his ex and hiding money from a joint venture. "You stole my life, 50, you took everything and left me with scraps," young Buck roared while 50 Cent shoved him hard, yelling, "I made you rich, you ungrateful snake. After all the times I bailed you out of jail." The camera caught every punch, the chair that smashed against the wall, and the shocking moment when young Buck grabbed 50 Cent's chain and yanked it off, screaming, "This don't belong to you no more." Onlookers, including a famous producer, were yelling stop, but the rage was too strong. Friends of both camps are now picking sides, with Lloyd Banks posting on Instagram, "We built this together, don't tear it down," while Tony Yayo liked a comment saying Buck crossed the line. Emotions ran high across the globe as celebrity reactions poured in. Dr. Dre reportedly called 50 Cent, warning him to calm down, and even Oprah-adjacent media outlets picked up the story, calling it the most explosive hip-hop fallout since the East Coast-West Coast wars. But the biggest twist yet is the family drama unfolding right now. Young Buck's teenage son posted a video crying, "Daddy, please don't fight Uncle 50," while 50 Cent's own child liked the post with a broken heart emoji. The family was left divided. Aunts, uncles, and even distant cousins are commenting on social media, begging for peace, yet fueling the fire with old stories of how 50 Cent once paid for young Buck's mother's surgery only to later demand loyalty in return. Fans are divided into camps, some trending justice for Buck with petitions for a full audit of G-Unit finances, others defending 50 Cent as the boss who kept the dream alive. And right in the middle of this chaos, a new audio leak surfaced last night where young Buck allegedly confessed on a private call, "I would have died for that man, but he killed my spirit." The voice cracked with pain and the internet went into meltdown, with millions sharing side-by-side clips of their old G-Unit videos next to the bloody fight footage. Analysts on every podcast are dissecting every frame, claiming you can see years of suppressed anger in their eyes and the way 50 Cent smiled right before the first punch, like he had been waiting for this moment all along. But here's where it gets even crazier. Insiders say this blow-up stems from a deathbed promise made by a fallen G-Unit affiliate who on his hospital bed asked both men to protect each other's families forever. Yet 50 Cent allegedly broke that vow by blocking young Buck from seeing his own kids during a custody battle. The accusation alone has hip-hop legends like Game jumping in with tweets saying, "I told y'all 50 plays dirty," and now the entire crew is fracturing, with old members texting each other in group chats filled with regret and what ifs. The stakes could not be higher, because if this fight escalates into a full diss war, we could see new tracks dropping within days, each one more vicious than the last, and with millions of dollars in streaming royalties on the line. Both men are risking everything: their legacies, their businesses, and the love of fans who grew up on their music. Reactions from the streets are pouring in, with barbershop debates turning into shouting matches and even school kids reenacting the fight in playgrounds. The drama is so thick you can feel it in the air, as if the ghost of G-Unit's golden era is watching and weeping over what it has become. Yet amid all the chaos, a tiny spark of hope flickers, because a mutual friend close to both posted a black screen with white text saying, "Real brothers fight, but real brothers also forgive." Will they listen, or is this the end of an era that once ruled the charts and the hearts of millions? The footage has already sparked boycotts of 50 Cent's upcoming projects, and streams for young Buck's old hits are skyrocketing as fans revisit the pain in his lyrics. The personal stakes are enormous for 50 Cent, who built his image on unbreakable power, suddenly looking vulnerable, and for young Buck, who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The world is holding its breath, waiting to see if lawyers get involved, if more videos drop, or if a surprise sit-down interview could flip the script entirely. But for now, the raw emotion captured in that fight footage reminds everyone that behind the money and the fame, these are two men whose bond was once stronger than blood and now lies shattered on a studio floor, leaving the entire hip-hop nation divided, shocked, and desperately craving answers that only they can give. And as the views climb past 60 million, the question burning on every lip is simple: how did the unbreakable G-Unit brotherhood reach this violent breaking point, and what devastating secret will explode next when the full story finally unfolds? Because trust me, this is only the beginning of a saga that will have you glued to your screen for days on end, with hearts racing and opinions flying in every direction. The drama is real, the pain is deep, and the next chapter promises to be even more jaw-dropping than anything we have witnessed so far. The moment that clip hit the internet, everything changed overnight. Fans were refreshing their feeds like crazy, trying to catch every new angle, every slowed-down version, every breakdown that could explain what really went down between 50 Cent and young Buck. But what nobody realized at first was that the video was only a small piece of something much bigger, something that had been building for weeks behind closed doors. Sources close to the situation started whispering that this wasn't just a random run-in. This was planned, not the fight itself, but the meeting. Apparently, both sides had agreed to sit down in a private studio space in Atlanta, far from cameras, far from outsiders, to finally settle years of tension that never really went away. People thought it was going to be a calm conversation, maybe even a moment of closure. But emotions were already running high before either of them even walked into that room. One insider claimed that 50 Cent arrived first, calm but visibly guarded, pacing around the studio with a tight expression on his face. He wasn't smiling, wasn't joking like he usually does. Something about his energy felt different. When young Buck walked in about 20 minutes later, the atmosphere shifted instantly. No handshake, no greeting, just silence, heavy silence that made everyone in the room feel like they were standing in the middle of a storm that hadn't hit yet. It started with small talk that didn't last long. 50 broke the silence first, looking directly at Buck and saying, "So you finally ready to tell the truth, or we still playing these games?" The tone was sharp, controlled, but you could hear the frustration underneath. Buck didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, shaking his head, and replied, "The only game being played is you thinking you still control everything." That was the first spark. People in the room say you could feel the temperature rise instantly. Voices got louder, body language changed. What was supposed to be a conversation turned into a confrontation within seconds. 50 started bringing up old issues, things fans thought had been buried years ago. Money disputes, loyalty questions, things that had never been fully addressed in public. "I gave you everything," 50 snapped, his voice echoing in the studio. "And you turned around and made me look like the enemy." Buck fired back just as hard. "You ain't give me nothing for free," he said, stepping even closer. "I worked for everything I got, and you know it. You just can't stand when somebody don't bow down to you." That line hit hard. People standing nearby started shifting uncomfortably, realizing this wasn't going to stay verbal for long. What fans didn't know at the time was that something new had triggered this meeting. Something recent. According to multiple insiders, 50 had gotten word that Buck had been speaking about him privately to certain industry people, making comments that painted 50 as controlling and manipulative. When that information reached 50, it didn't sit right with him. Not after everything they had already been through. He felt disrespected, and more than that, he felt betrayed all over again. Back in the studio, the tension kept building. 50 pulled out his phone at one point, scrolling through messages, and said, "You've been talking crazy behind my back. Don't even try to deny it." Buck looked at the screen for a second, then laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes from pure frustration. "Man, you really out here spying on people now?" He shot back. "That's what you doing." That's when things started getting personal. 50's voice dropped lower, more intense. "You always been the same," he said. "Always playing both sides, always acting like the victim when things don't go your way." Buck's face changed instantly. That comment hit something deeper. "Don't talk to me about being a victim," he snapped. "You built your whole image off that." At that point, the room was no longer calm. People started stepping in, trying to cool things down, telling both of them to take a step back. But neither one was listening. Years of unresolved issues were pouring out all at once, and neither of them was willing to back down. One witness said that Buck pointed directly at 50 and said, "You never saw me as an equal. Not once. To you, I was always just somebody you could control." 50 shook his head slowly, almost like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "If I wanted control," he replied, "you wouldn't even be standing here talking right now." That line changed everything. The energy shifted from heated argument to something much more dangerous. Buck stepped forward again, closing the distance between them completely. "Say that again," he said quietly, but with a tone that made everyone in the room freeze. For a split second, it felt like time stopped. Then came the moment that led to the viral clip. Voices started overlapping, louder than before. Someone in the background yelled for security. Chairs scraped against the floor. 50 raised his voice, "You keep testing me like I'm not the one who put you on," and Buck shouted back, "And you keep acting like I owe you my life." And right there, right in that chaotic moment, something snapped. The first shove happened so fast that half the people in the room didn't even see who initiated it. All they saw was both men suddenly lunging forward, bodies colliding, voices turning into pure anger instead of words. People rushed in immediately, trying to pull them apart, but it was already out of control. That's the exact point where the now viral footage begins. But what the camera didn't capture, what happened in those few seconds before and after, is where the real story starts to unfold. The moment bodies collided, the room turned into pure chaos. People who had been standing quietly just seconds earlier were now rushing in from every direction. trying to separate 50 Cent and Young Buck before things went too far. But by then, it already had. The clip that went viral only showed a few seconds of pushing and shouting, but witnesses say it was way more intense in real time. Buck swung first, or at least that's what some people are claiming. Others insist 50 made the first physical move with that shove that set everything off. Either way, once it turned physical, neither one of them backed down. "Get off me," Buck yelled as two people tried to hold him back, his voice cracking with anger. He kept trying to break free, eyes locked on 50 like nothing else in the room mattered. On the other side, 50 wasn't calm either. His face was tight, jaw clenched, trying to push past the people holding him. "You wanted this," he kept saying, over and over, like he had been waiting for this moment. One insider said the scariest part wasn't even the physical fight, it was the things they were saying to each other while being held back. Things that sounded way deeper than business or music. Things that felt personal. "You been dead to me," 50 shouted at one point, his voice cutting through the noise. The room went quiet for a split second when he said that, like even the people trying to separate them felt the weight of it. Buck froze for half a second, then shook his head slowly, almost like he expected it. "Nah," he replied, his voice lower now but still intense. "You just mad I stopped letting you control me." That line hit hard again. People around them started looking at each other, realizing this wasn't just about old money issues or industry drama. This was about respect, about power, about years of feeling misunderstood on both sides. Meanwhile, someone in the back of the room had their phone out the whole time. Nobody noticed at first, everyone was too focused on breaking up the fight, but that person captured just enough footage to spark everything that happened later online. The shaky angle, the yelling, the quick glimpse of both men trying to get at each other. It was messy, raw, and incomplete. And that's exactly why it spread so fast. Back in the studio, things were still heated even after they were pulled apart. Buck was pacing back and forth, running his hands over his head, clearly trying to calm down but failing. "This what you wanted, right?" he said, laughing under his breath, but there was no humor in it. "You wanted a show?" 50 stood on the other side, breathing heavy but more controlled now. He looked straight at Buck and said, "Nah, I wanted the truth, but you still can't give me that." His voice wasn't as loud anymore, but somehow it felt more intense. One of the people in the room stepped in between them again, trying to end it before it restarted. "This ain't going nowhere," he said firmly. "Y'all need to walk away." But walking away wasn't that simple. Not after everything that had just been said. Buck pointed toward 51 last time before turning toward the door. "Just remember," he said, "you don't own nobody." Then he walked out, slamming the door so hard it echoed through the studio. For a moment, nobody moved. The room was quiet except for the sound of people catching their breath. All eyes were on 50, waiting to see what he would do next. He stood there, staring at the door, expression unreadable. Then he shook his head slightly and muttered, "Same story every time," but the story didn't end there. Not even close. Within hours, that short clip started making rounds online. At first, it was posted on a small account, barely getting attention. But then someone bigger picked it up. Then another, and suddenly, it was everywhere. Fans were replaying it, slowing it down, zooming in, trying to figure out exactly what happened and who was in the wrong. Comments started flooding in fast. Some people were siding with 50, saying Buck had been disrespectful for years and finally pushed things too far. Others were defending Buck, saying he had every right to stand up for himself after feeling controlled and undervalued. The internet was split right down the middle. "This been building for years," one fan wrote. "You can't fake brotherhood forever." Another said, 50 always gotta be in control." Buck finally said enough. And just like that, the narrative started forming, even without the full story being out. What made things even more intense was when people from inside the industry started reacting. A few subtle posts, a few cryptic messages, nothing direct, but enough to keep the conversation going. One artist tweeted, "Loyalty always gets tested when money involved." Another posted, "Some relationships ain't meant to be fixed." Fans started connecting the dots, trying to figure out who was talking about who. But behind the scenes, things were getting even more complicated. Because according to New Whispers, that fight wasn't just about past issues or recent comments. There was something else, something that hadn't come out yet. Something that might explain why both of them were so on edge before the meeting even started. And if those rumors are true, then what happened in that studio might just be the beginning of something much bigger. As the clip kept spreading, the pressure started building on both sides. Fans were tagging 50 Cent and Young Buck non-stop, demanding answers, picking sides, turning a private moment into a public war. But what nobody expected was how quickly things would escalate after that. Early the next morning, 50 broke the silence first. He didn't go live, he didn't do an interview. Instead, he posted a short message that instantly set the internet on fire. "Some people never learn," he wrote, followed by a thinking emoji. Simple, cold, and exactly the kind of statement that leaves room for interpretation. Fans immediately assumed it was about Buck, and the comments exploded within minutes. But Buck didn't stay quiet for long. About an hour later, he posted a video of himself sitting in his car, looking straight into the camera. His face was calm, but his eyes told a different story. "I ain't got nothing to hide," he said slowly. "And I ain't scared to speak on anything. Just remember, there's always two sides." That was it. No details, no direct mention of 50. But the message was clear enough. Fans were shocked at how fast things turned into a public back and forth. What started as a leaked clip was now becoming a full-blown online battle. And the more both sides spoke, the more questions started coming up. Because then, something unexpected dropped. A second video. This one wasn't as chaotic as the first. It looked like it was recorded earlier in the night, before things got physical. The camera angle was clearer, the audio sharper. And for the first time, fans could actually hear parts of the conversation that led up to the fight. "You been saying my name in rooms like I ain't gone, hear it," 50's voice could be heard saying in the clip. He sounded controlled, but there was tension underneath. Buck responded almost instantly. "And you been moving like I owe you forever," he shot back. The video cut between moments of silence and sudden bursts of argument. At one point, 50 said, "I tried to fix this more than once," and Buck replied, "Nah, you tried to control it more than once." That word again. Control. It kept coming up, like it was the real issue underneath everything else. Fans started analyzing every second of the footage, slowing it down, reading body language, trying to figure out who looked more aggressive, who seemed more genuine. Some said 50 looked calculated, like he came into the meeting already frustrated. Others said Buck looked defensive, like he was tired of being questioned. But then came the moment that changed the whole narrative. Near the end of the second clip, just before things escalated, Buck said something that caught everyone off guard. "You really gonna sit here and act like you ain't been blocking my moves?" he said, pointing directly at 50. The internet froze on that line. Blocking his moves? What did that even mean? Suddenly, new theories started forming. People began speculating that this wasn't just about old beef or personal disrespect. This could be about business, about opportunities, about someone trying to stop the other from moving forward. 50's response in the clip didn't help calm things down either. He laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. "You block yourself," he said. "You always have." That exchange alone was enough to send fans into a frenzy. Comments flooded in with people taking sides even more aggressively than before. "He just exposed him," one fan wrote. Another said, "Nah, that sounded like deflection." And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more intense, a third twist hit. Someone from inside that meeting finally spoke out. Not publicly at first. It started as a leaked message, supposedly from someone who was actually in the room that night. The message spread quickly, with screenshots being reposted everywhere. In it, the person claimed that the argument wasn't just about respect or control, it was about a deal. According to that message, Buck had recently been in talks for a new project that could have changed his career completely. A major move, something big, but somehow, that deal fell through at the last minute. And Buck believed 50 had something to do with it. That's what led to the meeting. That's what started the tension before a single word was even said. And if that claim is true, then the fight wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. It was about power, influence, and who still holds control behind the scenes. Back in the studio that night, witnesses say that topic came up briefly before the shouting got out of hand. "You think I don't know what you did?" Buck reportedly said at one point, his voice shaking with frustration. "You always gotta be 10 steps ahead, right?" 50 didn't deny it directly. Instead, he said something that only added more mystery. "If you lost something, maybe you weren't supposed to have it," he replied. That line stuck with everyone who heard it, because it didn't sound like a denial. It sounded like something else entirely. Now fans are left trying to piece everything together. Was this really just an old rivalry resurfacing? Or is there something deeper going on behind the scenes that hasn't fully come out yet? Because if there's one thing everyone agrees on right now, this situation is far from over. That one leaked message changed the entire energy around the situation. What people first saw as a heated argument between 50 Cent and Young Buck suddenly started looking like something much deeper, something calculated, something that may have been building quietly behind the scenes for a long time. Fans were no longer just debating who threw the first shove. Now they were asking bigger questions. What deal was Buck talking about? Who else was involved? And most importantly, did 50 really have the power to shut something like that down? The speculation got even louder when a well-known industry figure, someone who had worked with both of them in the past, posted a cryptic message that read, "Business gets messy when pride gets involved." No names were mentioned, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. Fans instantly connected it to the situation, and once again, the internet split into two sides. Behind closed doors, things were getting even more tense. According to another insider, Buck didn't go home after the fight. Instead, he linked up with a small group of people he trusted, trying to figure out his next move. He was frustrated, pacing back and forth, replaying the entire situation in his head. "This ain't just about that night," he reportedly said. "This been happening." The way he said it made it clear that, in his mind, this wasn't a one-time issue. It was a pattern. On the other side, 50 was handling things very differently. Sources say he stayed calm, almost too calm, like someone who had already accepted how things would play out. He didn't rush to explain himself, didn't try to clear his name. Instead, he let the conversation grow on its own, watching as fans and insiders kept adding fuel to the fire. And then, late that same night, another piece of footage surfaced. This one wasn't from the studio. It looked like it was recorded outside, possibly in the parking lot just after Buck had stormed out. The lighting was dim, the video shaky, but the voices were clear enough to recognize. "This ain't over," Buck could be heard saying as he walked toward his car, clearly still heated. Someone behind the camera asked him, "What happened in there?" Buck stopped for a second, turned halfway around, and said something that immediately caught everyone's attention. "Ask him why he keep playing with people's lives," he replied, before getting into his car and slamming the door. That line hit the internet like a shockwave. Playing with people's lives? What did that mean? Suddenly, the narrative shifted again. This wasn't just about business deals or respect anymore. The way Buck said it made it sound personal, serious, like there was more going on behind the scenes than anyone had realized. Meanwhile, 50 finally spoke again, but in his usual style. Instead of addressing the situation directly, he posted another short message. "You can't rewrite history," it said. No explanation, no context, just enough to keep people talking. Fans were shocked at how both sides were handling things. No full statements, no interviews, just small pieces of information dropping at random times, keeping the mystery alive. And the more it dragged on, the more people started digging into the past. Old interviews resurfaced, old clips from G-Unit days started trending again. Moments where things seemed off, comments that didn't make sense back then but now felt different in this new context. People started saying the signs were always there, that the tension never really disappeared, it was just hidden. One clip in particular started gaining attention. It showed Buck from years ago, talking about loyalty and saying, "I stand with who stand with me." At the time, it sounded simple. But now, fans were replaying it with a different perspective, wondering if he had been hinting at something even back then. But just when it seemed like the story had reached its peak, another twist dropped that nobody saw coming. A voice recording. It wasn't confirmed where it came from, but it spread fast. In the audio, two voices that sounded very similar to 50 and Buck could be heard having a tense conversation. The tone was serious, not shouting like in the videos, but controlled and intense. "You think I don't see what you doing?" one voice said. "I think you seeing what you want to see," the other replied. The conversation went back and forth, touching on trust, loyalty, and something that sounded like a warning. "Don't make me handle this differently," one of them said at the end of the clip. That line made everything feel heavier. Fans were shocked. Emotions ran high across social media. Some people believed the recording was real and proved that the conflict had gone way beyond a simple argument. Others questioned its authenticity, saying it could have been edited or taken out of context. But regardless of what people believed, one thing was clear: the situation was getting more complicated by the minute. And in the middle of all this, people close to both sides started feeling the pressure too. Friends, collaborators, even family members were being dragged into the conversation. Some were asked to pick sides. Others tried to stay neutral but couldn't avoid the attention. The family was left divided in a way nobody expected, with loyalty being tested on every level. One insider described the situation as a storm that's been waiting to happen. And looking at everything that had surfaced so far, it was hard to disagree. Because at this point, it wasn't just about one fight. It was about years of tension, hidden issues, and unresolved feelings finally coming to the surface all at once. And the biggest question still remains unanswered: what really caused all of this to explode right now? By the time everything settled, nothing felt resolved. If anything, it felt heavier, more complicated. The fight between 50 Cent and Young Buck had moved far beyond that one night in the studio. It had turned into something public, something messy, something that fans were now deeply invested in without knowing the full truth. The clips kept circulating, the audio kept getting reposted, and every small reaction from either side kept adding more fuel to the situation. But what stood out the most was the silence in between. No full explanation, no clear statement, just fragments, and sometimes that kind of silence says more than anything else. People close to both sides have started pulling back, trying to avoid being dragged further into the drama. Some friendships have gone quiet, some collaborations have suddenly been paused. The energy around both camps feels tense, like everyone is waiting to see what happens next before making their next move. The family was left divided, not just in a personal sense, but professionally too. And then there's the question that keeps coming back: was this really just about respect and old issues, or was that rumored deal the real trigger behind everything? Because if there's truth to those whispers, then what happened that night wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. It was about control, power, and who gets to move forward. Fans are shocked at how deep this situation seems to go. Emotions ran high from the very first clip, but now it feels like the surface has only been scratched. There are still gaps in the story, still pieces that don't fully connect. And until one of them decides to speak openly, those questions are only going to grow. So now it's your turn to decide. Do you think 50 was protecting his position, or do you think Buck was finally standing up for himself after years of feeling controlled? And more importantly, do you think this situation can ever be fixed, or is this the final break? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over, and your voice matters in this conversation. If you want more updates as things unfold, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.